Hello and welcome to the Rotary E-Club of Silicon Valley's program for this week. Every week we bring to you a new program on technology, education, innovation, humanitarian service. My name is Mindy Chang and I'm president for this Rotary Club, and it's my honor to introduce to you our keynote speaker for this week. His name is Neal Petersen. Neal is an inspirational business speaker who draws from extraordinary life experiences. He delivers strong and timely messages of adaptability and perseverance, and he turns barriers into solutions by never giving up. As an award-winning author and the subject of a PBS documentary, Neal is a natural storyteller and highly entertaining. He challenges audiences to find their treasures and use their experiences to navigate those challenging times to their advantage. We are incredibly lucky to have Neal come to talk to us, share with us a little bit about his experiences in his life and through the physical disability, poverty, and humiliation of apartheid in South Africa, as well as some of his other life experiences. Neal, thank you for joining us. Please, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you, Madi, and thank you, everybody. Yes, I've been very privileged to have a very interesting life. I grew up in South Africa, and I have what I call my three advantages. But before I explain to you what my three advantages are, let me just preface by saying that is decided by a philosophy. In my life, there are no barriers, there are only solutions. And so what I always say is advantage number one is I was black. Only white people could vote. And if you opposed apartheid, if you opposed what the government had done, we all unified ourselves around the term of Black South Africans. So the apartheid was a very harsh era in the history of South Africa. Advantage number two, I was born in a working class family. My father was a commercial diver. Unfortunately, my father became an alcoholic and he could not hold down a job. And eventually he retired as a security laborer in a factory and was not able to make provision really for a secure financial future. My mother was a school teacher, and we know that these contributions school teachers make to society are pretty immense. But around the world, school teachers are not very well compensated. So I grew up at the borderline of poverty. Yes, we had a home, and yes, we had food, but we could not take that for granted. And then my third advantage is I was born with only one complete hip socket. In the left hip, I lacked ball and socket joint. So that resulted in 3 major surgeries. And that last surgery was at age 5. And that resulted in being a body cast from my ankle to my chest, unable to move. And if I wanted to see a different view, a nurse, a doctor, someone physically had to move me. Now, I refer to these 3 advantages. And to most people, those are not advantages, those are huge disadvantages. But the way I was raised was to look at the perception of, with that, in life there are no barriers, there are only solutions. You take the hand you are dealt. And whilst you cannot change those cards, it's up to you how you will actually play the hand. And so I was never allowed to feel sorry for myself. I was always said, life isn't always fair. Sometimes you have to work harder, you have to work smarter, you have to do things differently, but you have to find your own. And life will throw things at you. How I was raised and able to progress, and I was tested and challenged. I always remembered, where have I come from? And if I could come from there, then whatever I'm facing now, I can overcome, I can surmount. And part of where we are, it doesn't guarantee that this is all there is to life. Being the hospital bed doesn't necessitate that that is all that's going to change it to whatever the environments are, whether they are negative or positive. So these are the challenges, but to understand part again of those challenges, you have to understand a little bit about my mother, the woman who brought me to the world, who had such a profound impact. My mother went to high school and became a top student at her alma mater at Livingston High School in Cape Town, South Africa. And she was then given a scholarship to the University of Cape Town, South Africa. And there again, she was one of the top students. And there she received a scholarship to any university in the United States. So Mom chose to go to the University of Syracuse in upstate New York, where she graduated in 1948. Very few women in the United States, very few women in South Africa, irrespective of their color, attended university. So Mom became part of it, a trendsetter in terms of fighting for things that she believed in. She returned to South Africa to teach, but again, because of the political environment and the various challenges of South Africa, she faced uphill battles and headwinds. And she ended up becoming a biology teacher at her alma mater at Livingston. And she was in the most powerful position to influence young minds and young lives about the value of education. And she truly believed in education for all South Africans, irrespective of race, color, or creed. So Mom was very committed to our community and education. And she used to tutor students, as she tutored me, because I missed so much of my schooling being having been in the hospital. At a certain time of the year, go and fight for these slots at the medical school to get them accepted. And then she would go and obtain scholarship money. And this is a cycle that went on every year as long as I can remember. And one of the stories that I was told, I ended up visiting one of her students who was a doctor, and I wanted to know a little bit about my own history, medical history, and in Thai. So I went to see mom's doctor just for a checkup, and he was a photograph of my mom on her chair, on her desk, and she did not know I was coming in. I just made an appointment and showed up, and she said, "Your mom saved my life," and I said, "How so?" And she said, "Well, I was in her class, and Mom your mom had given out application forms or told us to fill out application forms to the and I said, and I filled out this application form. Mom showed up at my desk, and she said, "Well, I'm going to this," and this young woman handed her the form. Mom looked at it and she just went and tore it in half. And she's not going to nursing school. And the student said, we can't afford that. That's not in the equation. So you want the grades, worry about. And Bill Shard went on, got a scholarship, was accepted at medical school, completed medical school, became a family physician, and her life was changed because somebody believed in her. Somebody believed that she could do better, that she could at the highest of level. I want to jump ahead. And I became an international sportsman. I returned to South Africa for a promotion and met Mom at the airport. And something was different about her. And when I stepped back from the hug, I realized my mom had no breasts. I said, "Mom, what happened?" And she said, "Well, I had some breast cancer some years ago, which I had heard about." She said, "And 2 years ago, there was the doctors discovered it metastasized, and the only option left was a double mastectomy. This was news to me." And I said, "Why wasn't I told?" And she said, "Well, you answered the problem. I don't want to burden you with mine." And so she ended up going through a double mastectomy. And It was her students that she had helped get into medical school that ran it in behind her. Dilshad was the attending family physician. So-and-so was the anesthesiologist. So-and-so was the oncologist. So-and-so was director of nursing. Everybody who was engaged in mom's healthcare was a former student, providing a service that no amount of money could ever provide because they were there saving the life of their teacher. And the point I really want to make is mom did not become a teacher so that someday she could impact the lives of her students who could save her life. She became a teacher because she believed in education. She helped these students do the best that they could do and become the best that they could become because she believed that they would have an impact on our community. Mom was just one recipient of tens of thousands of people who have been. And this is why Rotary, because Rotary is self. And so as I became an international sportsman and I raced the yacht and built my own boat and raced the oceans of the world and participated in the longest race on the planet known to mankind, 27,000-mile solo race around the world, I always had to look at it from the perspective of the filter of which I was raised. And that filter was not just about yourself, but how do you use this to lift other people up, to make a difference, a lasting impact? And so I finished the longest race on the planet in 1999, and I'm proud to actually say that Rotary International was a part of that. I belong to the St. John's, there's the Johns Island Rotary Club in Charleston, South Carolina, and they did a lot to help support my efforts to race around the world and to work with young people because we had a major education program associated with my single-handed around the world campaign. They were able to not only come together behind me as Rotarians, a Rotarian made a huge donation to the International Scholarship Foundation that made me a Paul Harris Fellow. And the Rotarian magazine featured my during the race in the magazine, and we had the Rotary emblem on the boat. So Rotary was a very important part of that stage of my life as I raced around the world. And if you think of the billions and billions of people who have lived on the planet, some 8,000 people have traveled they climbed to the summit of Mount Everest. Somewhere around 750 people have traveled into outer space as astronauts. If you think of the billions and billions of people who have lived on this planet, about 200 people, including myself, have sailed or raced a vessel solo around the world via the Southern Ocean, via Cape Horn, encountering major storms, notorious Southern Ocean storms, encountering the doldrums. But about 200 of us have circumnavigated this planet in the history of mankind. So I joined a very exclusive group of adventurers, but with this also comes a sense of responsibility. And how do we inspire people to be their best selves, to take an idea, to take a dream, and to build a support team around them, to turn that idea into a reality, and to make that reality support communities and other people. We cannot just do things because we're passionate about doing something for ourselves. Our passion has to extend beyond. And so Mom's story to me, our passion for knowledge, passion for education, passion for helping people become their best selves is deeply ingrained. And so today I travel the world as an inspirational keynote speaker about continuing to share that you can overcome anything. And when I came home from the Round the World race and finished all of these challenging components, my challenges were not over. My house burnt down. And I lost my trophies, I lost my photographs, I lost my entire history. The manuscript of the new book I was working on, Journey of Hope Merchant, was in the house, and that fire destroyed everything. And the Rotary Club ran it in behind me, helped me kind of pick up the pieces, and there was a newspaper article the following day after the fire. And this article was read by a woman who was not a Rotarian, but just saw it in the newspaper, and the Rotary Club number was there. If you wanted to do anything to help and support, call the Johns Island Rotary Club. And so she called the Johns Island Rotary Club, and asked what could she do to help. And I had just lost my transmission in my car, and I needed a lift to a car dealer. And so I said, how about a lift to a car dealer this afternoon? And so we met at 5 o'clock on August the 7th, 1999. And we were married on New Year's Eve. So again, Rotary played a role in bringing me this incredible woman into my life. She would, if it wasn't for Rotary putting a phone number, their phone number, they may not have been a number for her to connect with. And then having the courage to make that phone call, they had to say, what can I do for somebody else? And then from my side, being willing to accept help completely changed our lives. And I'd like to think that as Don and I have traveled the world, I'm right now in Punta Cana, in the Dominican Republic, having just finished an insurance keynote. I'm going to be in the United States in a few days' time. They're talking to 2 different groups of the National League of Cities, which are all about mayors and municipal officials who have been elected, and about values and integrity in our political system, and about doing what is right. I'll be working with a chief prosecutor and her office, who have had some very, very tough cases, heart-wrenching cases, where they seek the death penalty in a certain case, and it's to help them look at what they've done and understand that they've done the right thing and have to continue to do the right thing. And how do we engage a greater conversation, not just in the United States, but around the world, about people coming together, working together, collaborating for the better of mankind, not to divide. So Rotary has been an important foundation and stepping stone of service. And the foundation of my mom, the challenges of the race, provides us with a tremendous opportunity to go into this world and to listen to other people, to ask questions. Where are your challenges? Where are your dreams? Where are your hopes? And then what are the steps? Utilizing your knowledge base, utilizing the people you possibly can meet. How can you overcome the circumstances of what you encounter right now and what you face in those headwinds? To sail out of your storms into the more peaceful, tranquil waters, and to reach those ultimate destinations and the goals. And so I challenge my audience to ask 4 powerful questions of themselves. And 3 of those questions I was raised with. And that first question is, what I do, is it right for me? Everybody can justify that, including a drug dealer. A drug dealer can say, oh, look how much money I'm making. Now it comes to the second question. What I do, is it right for my family? And again, a drug dealer can justify and say, oh, look at a nice house, or look at the nice cars, whatever the material things that are taking place. And again, any member of society can justify the first 2 questions. The third question is, what I do, is it right for my community? Now the drug dealer is in trouble. And anybody who's not doing something that serves their community has to really reevaluate what it is that the actions have. Now, Darlene has a son, and 11 years ago, he and his wife had a baby girl. And young Shelby came into my world. And I'd just been doing some work in Bermuda with the Bermudan government and their community. And I flew back after my granddaughter was born. And I held this little girl in my arms. I was thinking about the future. What kind of world will she live in? What would be the legacy that will pass on to her? And I thought about the work of what I do, is it right for me? And we can say yes. What I do is right for my family. And again, we can say yes. Yeah, I extend part of my family with this granddaughter. Then it came down to what I do, is it right for our community? And again, we can actually say yes. But that fourth question has to also be, what we do, is it right for the next generation? And so we really have to rejig how we look at some of these things and focus on our community and the future generations and say, how do our actions impact them? And then work backwards and say, now, how does it impact me and my family? And if we can turn that perspective around to the future and say, we've got to address climate change. We have to address poverty. We have to address human rights. Then we can say, what is my purpose and how do I utilize my skills to be a part of a bigger picture that's a bigger part of society, of mankind, and hence that becomes our legacy. And so I truly, truly believe that we can do things better in this world, that we can create a greater legacy, that we can create understanding and compassion. And so our work, whether it is in the Middle East with the challenges of terrorism, or whether it is with the sea levels rising and climate change taking place, that's creating bigger storms, that's creating displacement of populations, whatever they are, I do believe that mankind is in a position to make huge changes, that future generations can be extremely proud to say, we overcame. So, Mitzi, this is who I am, this is where I come from, and I'm going to hand the floor back to you.
Wonderful. Neal, thank you so much for sharing your story. Very inspirational, and I loved hearing the background story as well and learning more about your mother. And that just that positive attitude that seems to be something that she passed down to you and she exudes as well. And so, you talked a little bit about circumnavigating the world. I wanted to, lead by asking you to maybe tell us a little bit about that specific experience in terms of preparation. So, you spent something like, I think, 9 months at sea alone, which is it's an enormous amount of time to be alone in general and not have human interaction. But I guess what led up to that?
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
My passion was about the sea and about sailing. And that came from growing up in the coastal city of Cape Town, South Africa, and seeing the boats and hearing the stories of my father at sea. And so I really became just totally enthralled with the idea of ocean exploration, ocean voyages and the histories across the ocean. And I read these incredible books written by people like Joshua Slocum about circumnavigating the globe. And that's what grabbed my imagination. And it is the power of imagination of, wow, can't I be part of something so big, something so powerful? And so there was tremendous years and years of preparation and planning that went into bringing me to the start line. There were multiple yacht races that challenged me. I was injured at sea. I was run down by a Russian freighter in mid-ocean and spent 15 days pumping to keep the boat afloat. I was dismasted in my first attempt to race around the world in the Southern Ocean, and I decided to do ring. So these were all the things that built tremendous experience, tremendous wisdom, but kept along that dream that I have to do this, I want to do this. My mentor and childhood hero, I read about him in the magazines, Harry Mitchell, and then eventually in my own style race in 92, I raced against him, met him, got to know him, became a friend, he became my mentor. He was killed at sea in one of our yacht races. So this is filled with huge, huge challenges. But you take things one day at a time. You focus on getting to the start line. And then when the start happens, you don't think about 27,000 miles, you think about getting to the first night. Then you think about getting to the first week, finishing the first leg. So you break things down into bite sizes. And as you break this into bite sizes, little by little, you keep moving forward. And whatever comes at you, you deal with it at that moment. Now, you do a lot of planning, you do a lot of preparation for the inevitable, but you have to execute with what's in front of you. And before you know it, there's the finish line. And I spent 195 days, 16 hours in total isolation to finish this race. There were 4 legs, 4 stopovers. So half of the race is physical, and the other half of the race truly is mental acumen.
Wow. That's an incredible story. And there's actually a lot of that strategy that really can be applied to, I think, other parts of life and for other folks as well. And but I wanted to get you to maybe elaborate a little bit about something that you just mentioned. You said one of the challenges was a Russian freighter. What happened there?
Yes, I encountered thick fog coming out of the English Channel, racing across the North Atlantic. And technology failed. My radar system had some human error on my part that tuned out all targets. And the Russian freighter came into my zone, but my alarm did not go off. And they could not see me. I did not know of their existence, and they did not have their radar on. And it's a big ocean, wrong place, wrong time two vessels collided. I took severe damage. My initial contact with the Russian freighter, the words of the watch officer was, "Hold on, let me turn on my radar." They weren't even running the radar in fog. Another human error. And I had a huge hole in part of my vessel from this collision. And so I ended up doing all kinds of things to reduce the flow of water. I couldn't stop it. All I could do was reduce it. And then the real race began. And I spent pumping 15 minutes every hour, 24 times a day. And I did that 15 days consecutively. And pushed the boat harder than I ever pushed it before to get to the finish line. But at first I was trying to race to a port. That port initially was Newfoundland. But then I found confidence and I realized that, hang on, if I can make Newfoundland, well, why can't I make possibly New Brunswick? If I can make New Brunswick, why can't I possibly make the northern part of Massachusetts? And if I can make that, I can make the finish line. So again, you keep breaking things down into manageable sizes and you build confidence. And whether we are in business, it is all about you have the big vision, things happen, you adapt, you make the changes, you alter the course, you lead, you push, and you get to that end result by whichever method you can, as long as it's done with integrity, it's done with honesty, it's done with transparency. And I do believe in our political situation, we also can adapt these same process, these same principles about who are we serving? What is the end result? What is the outcome? And then how can we together? Now, I might be alone on the boat, but I have to attract people to help me, whether it's the people who built the boat or the mass manufacturers or the cell manufacturers. There's a tremendous team that's engaged and involved. The person who put the pump on my boat that I could use to pump a gallon a stroke to get the water out. This is about a team. It's not about being alone. I may just be the person who executes, but I count heavily on all of these folks that have made me strong to do what I have to do. So I really feel that our society has to come back and learn to work together, to cooperate, because that is how we move monumental circumstances and change the compass course and make those true strong commitments. And it is either, what are you doing? Is it going to be so significant that it is going to become a piece of history? And if you're going to be a piece of history, then you better make sure it's going to be positive. Let's make sure it's not going to be negative. Let's make sure we do no harm to our environment or to our fellow mankind. Let's ensure we lift people up as a part of our history, which becomes everybody's history.
That's incredible. Neal, thank you for sharing that. And so we're going to be including some different videos below this main program as well that are related to some of the footage that you've had online, and I believe there's a PBS documentary as well that we want to see if we can get a link to.
Yes, all those links.
Perfect. So we're very excited about that. So Neal, I want to ask you, where do you see yourself now 5 years from now? I mean, you've circumnavigated the world. That must be a huge task or bucket list item that's marked off. What's next?
Well, I see myself traveling around the globe just repeatedly. And I see myself working with all kinds of people and organizations. As a motivational speaker, I do a lot of work for corporations and helping them to inspire their workforce. I do a lot of work with governments, as I mentioned earlier, and we do a lot of work in the communities. And so we're trying to always find, if I'm in a region for a corporate keynote, how do we work with the university? How do we work with non-profit organizations? How do we work with local schools? Because I'm there already, and the corporations pay the bills and cover the necessary components. So that leaves me with the ability to volunteer my time to make that impact. And so how do we become better stewards? And how do we inspire other people to look at their circumstances and say, well, yes, I may be in poverty. I may not have a job. I may be a victim of war or a victim of circumstances. And it's to help people take what their current reality is and say, what are your dreams? Where do you see yourself? Where do you want to be? And who do you need to meet in order to achieve that and to utilize my network? to utilize the resources and the experience of the millions of people who've been a part of this journey that I've become a bigger part of. And so again, through technology, through what you're doing with the Rotary, again, it's bringing people together. So I don't see myself coming off the road. I see myself living on planes, seeing so many corners of the world. Whether I'm working as a speaker or working on a new book or just doing something within a community. I just recently came back from Haiti. I went with one of my staff into a remote part of Haiti to meet his mother. And now his daughter's coming to live in our community in the Dominican Republic with her dad, and trying to see what we can do for her education, possibly someday bring her cousin over. It's again all about how do you make a difference. When I'm on our new boat, well, the 14 years we had a catamaran, we sailed the islands of the Caribbean, and we in the ports and the stopovers, I'm sailing because I'm re-energizing myself. We're continuously doing things within those communities, bringing people onto the boat, talking about what are their roles in their community. We spent 3 months in Bermuda last year, and there was a young man who felt that the America's Cup in Bermuda was leaving people behind and leaving people out because it was so exclusive, and he could identify with that exclusivity. And he was part of the youth political leadership. And so he was very opposed to the America's Cup. And so I sat him down on my boat and I said, look, this is going to happen, whether you agree or don't agree. This race is happening. But here are some of the things you should consider of how do you take the taxi drivers, you take vendors, you take stalls, and you utilize this influx of tourists to generate an income immediate term. But then you're going to have new marinas built. So how do you end up utilizing the people who have to work and support those marinas so that after the America's Cup is done, new boats and other things, other people who transit through here end up being able to utilize the services that you now have the skills. So you continue to build. And there's a complete turnaround. And I'm proud to say it's happening. It's happening right now. And there's going to be another jumping of point across the Atlantic, all kinds of nautical traffic, because the Bermudan community and the youth will be a part of the riggers, the sail makers, the marina operators. So again, we get given every day a chance to make a difference, to inspire somebody. And in our lives, who are the people going to be touching? I think it was Winston Churchill said, we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. And so we have to bring ourselves and our society beyond the point of making a living. We have to be able to ensure that everybody has a fair, equitable living, and we can focus on creating a true harmonious life.
That's incredible. Neal, thank you for sharing your positive story and positive outlook on life itself. I love how you talk about collaboration between communities. You mentioned Rotary and how it's kind of touched your life, and I know a lot of our members will find that part pretty amazing. And there's we'll have a link to also your book, Journey of a Hope Merchant, and linked right below this video as well. And we're very honored to have you speak to our club. We're just about out of time for questions, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up and then turn it to you for some last words. So thank you, viewers, members, and guests for watching this week's program of the Rotary E-Club of Silicon Valley. Just as a quick reminder, make sure that you leave a comment below the video and ask a Neal question if you have a question for him, or let him know what you thought about his story, or let us know what you thought about our meeting this week. And we will see if Neal can get a response to you, and we'll also see you guys next week for our meeting and the following week. Neal, I'm going to turn it back to you for our closing statements.
Thank you, Marie. And yes, I am reachable through technology. Technology is a fantastic way of reaching so many more people. And so let's use technology in a positive way, not just for our entertainment, and continue as Rotarians, as humanitarians, continue to make a difference each and every day. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Neal. All right, everyone, we'll see you guys next week. Take care now.